Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back and joining me live for a recap of UFC 305. What a fascinating turn of events we were treated to on a Saturday evening. Cheers to those who were in attendance in Perth, Australia, where Dricus Plessis took on Israel Adesanya, and we saw what went down. The cream rose to the top. It was an incredible, festive evening, boisterous crowd. A number of fights ended up ending via finish. And that main event, you knew that it was an arduous task for Dricus Plessis to close distance on Israel Adesanya. And one question I posed previously in regards to Israel Adesanya and a stiff jab being enough to stifle Dricus Plessis' initial onslaught. And I felt that that was not going to be enough. It was going to take a little bit more. And what ended up happening, you saw Dricus Plessis going to the leg kick early, a bit of a bombardier, a marauder, closing the distance, still leaving his chin high, but keeping the guard up. And Adesanya was able to have some moments, but it wasn't nearly enough. And that fourth round, we saw Adesanya succumbing to the ground game of Dricus Plessis. Very impressive performance. Dricus Plessis retains his title, and the arrow continues to be pointed up. This is a young man who has basically cleared out the middleweight division. And who's next, I ask? I beg of you, who's next? It's interesting. You hear Dricus Plessis' team talks about Alex Pereira and that being a potential fight up at 205 pounds. You also realize that Sean Strickland would like a rematch. A lot of people felt that Sean Strickland ended up winning his matchup the last time he fought Dricus Plessis. But props to Dricus Plessis. I ended up cashing on the fight doesn't go the distance at -140 in that matchup. And it was a closely lined fight, but as I mentioned earlier, the cream rose to the top, and you saw that Dricus Plessis was up on the scorecards and walked away victorious. And you have another number of great performances last night. One of them was Kai Kara France, who, what can you say? Footwork was a major game player in the game plan of Kai Kara France. The footwork of Kai Kara France to close distance. He realized that Steve Erceg is a very intelligent fighter, and he had to find a way inside to land the kill shot, and he did. So props to Kai Kara France, who is a talented fighter. He's a diminutive fighter, but he's somebody who's going to fight hard for your money while he's conscious. He does it every time out, and he walks away victorious in that matchup. So very impressed by Kai Kara France, and he puts himself in title contention once again. Amazing. Earlier in his career, he struggled, especially on the ground, and his takedown defense. The Askar Askarov fight, I go back to that. That was a real eye-opener for me in regards to Kai Kara France, and very impressed there. And then you think about Steve Erceg, and he's a fighter who, where does he go from here on out? Does he go back to the drawing board here? Does he drop to a top five flyweight here? Good question. He burst onto the scene and earned a title shot, I believe, off of a win over Matt Schnell. And who hasn't beaten Matt Schnell? By the way, I believe Alessandro Costa is going to be taking on Matt Schnell in the near future. So Erceg gets TKO'd and goes back to the drawing board. Then we look down the fight. Another fight that really stood out to me was Dan Hooker and the way he was able to break Mateusz Gamrot down the stretch in that fight. You look at the end of the second round where Gamrot was unsuccessful landing the takedowns, and even into the third round, the end of the third round, Gamrot started to struggle against the fence, was unable to secure takedowns, was eating some elbows. Remember those Travis Brown-esque elbows against the fence. Hooker, he had a front choke series going on there, looking to put Gamrot in trouble anytime he shot for the legs. And Gamrot was exposed there, and he stuck to his game plan like he typically does, but Hooker was relentless, was walking Gamrot down. Very, very impressed with Dan Hooker there. You talk about somebody who has had a major career resurgence. That is Dan Hooker. I was very impressed with Dan Hooker. The takedown defense held up. His get-up game was a big factor there. And also the striking, he came back from getting knocked down and wobbled and bloodied and beaten, and he just would not go away. And Gamrot's been in precarious situations in the past, but this time around, it wasn't enough for Gamrot and Hooker, who, I mean, it wasn't too long ago he was getting brutalized by Arnold Allen, and that was down at 145 pounds. People thought the writing was on the wall, that his potential career was coming to an end. And here he is rising up once again like a phoenix from the ashes. So props to Dan Hooker, back in action. And then you have the other, the party pooper of the event was Jair Rozenstruik, who ended up basically having close to a flawless victory against Tai Tuivasa, and impressive win for Jair Rozenstruik. But you look at Tai Tuivasa, and what the heck was that scorecard about? 30-27 to Tai Tuivasa. That was one of the strangest scorecards I've ever seen, and that judge, I believe it was Howie Booth, ended up getting taken out from his judging duties, removed from his judging duties for the remainder of the card. And it makes sense. I know it's not the first time that's happened. I believe it was in Macau where that happened one other time. I remember it was definitely overseas. I don't think there was an athletic commission at the event where a previous judge was removed mid-card, but scary stuff when that ends up happening. You don't like seeing that, and I have no idea how that judge was able to come to the conclusion that Tai Tuivasa won that fight 30-27. I thought that was an atrocious scorecard, something that goes into the annals of worst scorecards of all time. Glad that we can put that behind us. Then you have the fighter who stole the show, other than Dricus du Plessis, Carlos Prates. Very, very impressive. Flawless victory. Li Jingliang was like he was stuck in a barrel and he was getting shot at, like shooting fish in a barrel, baby. Prates was flawless out there. Remind me of the performance by Anderson Silva when he took on Chris Lieben. It was that pretty. It was a pretty performance, calm in the pocket. The calmness in the pocket is what stood out to me. It was very, very impressive. And I believe he ended up calling out Chaos Williams, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys believe that that was a decent call out? I'd like to hear from those in the comments section. And Li Jingliang, who's now 35 or 36 years of age, has been known for his durability, but not anymore. Not after that matchup. You have to wonder. The guy's been clipped many times in the past, and this time around, he spent a few moments on the canvas until he eventually rose to his feet. Scary knockout, and maybe a career-ending knockout loss for Li Jingliang. Now, you have the Junior Tafa Walter Walker fight where there was a scream uh, from Tafa as he was caught in a leg lock. And the casuals seemed to fill the room. They were unaware that when you scream and you're caught in a submission, that typically will result in a submission loss. That would be a verbal submission. And what ended up happening, Junior Tafa walks up to Walker and attempts to, well, he did successfully slap him in the face. And that was not a smart move. I don't think he's going to earn a rematch there. That appeared to be a clean victory for Walker, and he wants Justin Tafa next. So I say give him Justin Tafa. Let's watch them throw down, and I suspect Walker will have a significant grappling edge in that matchup as well. What are your thoughts on the matter? Please feel free to share in the comments section. If you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be a big help. And also, if you are enjoying the content, I'll be putting out many more videos from now to Kingdom Come, breaking down upcoming matchups. Let's talk a controversial decision here. Let's talk a fighter who stole victory from the jaws of defeat. Let's talk about Ricardo Ramos, who was taking on Josh Kulabau, and Kulabau was acting like a ballerina out there, mocking Ricardo Ramos, and Ramos stuck to his guns. That lead leg was getting chewed up, and he ended up coming out the other side victorious in a fight where mocking an opponent came back to haunt Josh Kulabau, but also there was a moment in time where Ramos was unable to get back to his feet, and Kulabau was trying to land ground and pound and was hopping into Ramos's guard, which was just a very low fight IQ moment. And we've seen this play out many times before in the past, where if a fighter is unable to get back to his feet, back away, disengage from the opponent, and put it on the onus of the referee to urge the opponent to get up. And if they are unable to do so, you're going to earn a TKO victory. So that was in the cards there, and it was a shame because it was Kulabau's fight, but his poor fight IQ ended up costing him in that matchup, and that was a sad situation. You really you don't like to see that, and unfortunately it ended up taking place, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And hopefully Josh Kulabau learned something. What's amazing to me is he's a seasoned veteran. It's not like he is the new kid on the block. Let's walk our way through this card. We talked a little bit about the main event of the evening. We talked about the co-main, and now we're on Casey O'Neill against Luana Santos. And you saw the vet lesson was delivered by Casey O'Neill. Props to those who were on Casey O'Neill in that matchup. Very impressive performance. Luana Santos was unable to get her striking going, and she was out volumed by a significant margin. So props to Casey O'Neill there. And then you had Herbert Burns, who, my goodness gracious, 4 consecutive bouts where he has been brutally finished. He ends up on his back, unable to get up. And I was at the fight against Bill Algeo. That was a really bad look, and it's continued to happen time and time again. I mean, I wonder what his team thought as they were watching the footage, fight after fight after fight, where he was just brutalized and beaten to a bloody pulp and unable to get up. At one point, Gilbert Burns was carrying Herbert out of the octagon that was on Long Island. Sick stuff. And when he looks back on his mixed martial arts career, Herbert Burns, he's gonna have that win over Nate Landwehr, but other than that, not a good look for Herbert Burns, man. And other than that, that was a fascinating card. I was grateful to witness the belt staying in Dricus du Plessis' hands and around his waist, and Israel Adesanya took the loss like a former champion. He legitimately lost the fight. He was down on the scorecard, so I don't want to hear folks claiming sour grapes there that Israel Adesanya was unable to, or he got robbed, because that wasn't the case. And Dricus du Plessis, it's amazing how many folks have faded him on the come up, and he's just proved everybody wrong. He continues to do so. Very, very impressed by Dricus du Plessis. He brings the belt back to South Africa, and should be an interesting path forward for Dricus du Plessis. He has a bunch of options. I actually would like to see that bout up at 205 pounds against Alex Pereira. That would be excellent, especially when you consider Magomed Ankalaev should be and is the uncrowned UFC light heavyweight champion. We know this at this stage in the game. So interesting path there for Dricus du Plessis. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Want to wish you a festive rest of your Sunday evening. And remember to go get what's yours. Look out for many more videos as we continue this journey together, my brothers. Mixed martial arts is a beautiful thing, and I am grateful to be here celebrating it with you. So thank you, my friends, and have a great day. Appreciate you, my brothers.